from jumping around the map in crazy ways to a way to triple your team's effectiveness against spies. You guys just keep eating these videos up, so without further ado, here are 12 Team Fortress 2 tricks that are guaranteed to help you play like a pro. Number 1, let's start things off with a fun one. Did you know that as Demo Knight, you can extend the range of your sword to hit enemies almost twice as far away? And it's all thanks to some really weird and badly coded game mechanics by Valve. I actually didn't know this one myself until someone suggested it in the comments of the last video, but apparently by beginning the melee swing and charging immediately afterwards, the game actually grants you an extra 56 hammer units of range. This is because the game is supposed to give Demo Knight this extra range anytime he charges, but swinging your melee while charging cancels the charge and removes the range bonus before the hit can register. By swinging and immediately charging afterwards, you can bypass this weird ordering and surprise your enemies with an unnaturally long sword swing. Number 2. One key feature that a lot of players aren't using enough is the scoreboard. By pressing tab, you open up the scoreboard, which shows you how every player is performing currently, and also what class they're playing if they're on your team. This information is critical to pay attention to, because there's so much you can do with it. For example, when you're playing Medic, you can judge who the better heal target will be based off their scoreboard performance, which is a pretty reliable way to make sure you're always healing optimally. Also, the scoreboard can be used as a tool to let you know which players you need to worry about most on the enemy team. When joining a new game, it usually takes a couple minutes to learn what players are performing the best and who to be most afraid of, but by simply pressing tab and opening the scoreboard, you can instantly gain this information, and that can help you out in just so many different ways. Number 3. Everybody knows you can jump with the rocket launcher and the sticky bomb launcher, but there's actually tons of other weapons you can jump with too. A classic example is the detonator. At this point, it's pretty common knowledge that holding right click and shooting this thing can have the same effect as a rocket jump, but there's actually a couple other lesser known weapons that can do it as well. For example, the stock grenade launcher, iron bomber, and loose cannon can all blast jump in some way, but these jumps are much shorter than your typical rocket jump. The rocket cluster shot by a level 3 sentry gun can also be used with the Wrangler to blast jump, and they actually send you extremely far. Using this in combination with the rescue ranger to grab your gun is a great way to instantly set up a level 3 in some pretty unexpected places. Anyways, there's a few more weapons that can blast jump, but they're kinda useless. These are the caber and the short circuit, which can both launch you a little bit when used right next to an enemy, but these jumps are definitely not the most practical or reliable movement tool. Number 4. Want to completely catch your enemies off guard? Try this awesome tactic. On maps with large open areas like CTF well, wait for an enemy to spot you, hide behind a corner, and then rocket jump over top of them. When they round the corner to come find you, you'll already be behind them. When you're behind an unsuspecting enemy, it's basically a free kill. My personal favorite class to do this with is definitely a hybrid knight, because your enemy won't even suspect that a demo knight has the ability to rocket jump. Just hide around the corner, use your grenade launcher to rocket jump over the wall, and then charge at them from behind. It's a really fun tactic. Number 5. Pesky spies always bothering you? Well, there's actually a really simple and easy solution to that. Just communicate with your team. Seriously. Spies rely on being unexpected and surprising their enemies, so even just hitting X and 2 on your keyboard to have your character say a voice line will raise your team's awareness a small amount, which even that just makes it much harder for the spy to get the drop on your teammates. What's even better than that is to call it out in voice chat. Just open voice chat and say something like "spy behind us." Most of the time, your team will instantly become much more aware of their surroundings, and the enemy spy won't last long after that. Alternatively, you can just ask one of your teammates to go pyro and spy check, and most of the time someone will actually do it. Team communication matters a lot, so it's a shame it's so underutilized. Number 6. A small but super useful detail that almost nobody pays attention to is the teleporter glow. And I'm not talking about the glowing light that the teleporter emits when it's active, but instead the giant colorful circles that appear under people who just recently teleported. Sometimes it can be hard to notice these circles in the heat of battle, but try to pay some extra attention to them. If you can locate an enemy player with a glowing circle, track which direction they approach from, because there's a 90% chance you'll find a hidden teleporter exit. Another thing to note is that your enemies can make use of this trick too, so sometimes it's a good idea to wait a little bit to push out after teleporting, because that way your enemies will have no clue that you came from the teleporter. Number 7. Want a strong advantage over the other players in the game? Try adjusting your sound settings a little bit. There are a couple interesting things that you can learn from game audio, but sometimes the noises are too quiet to make use of. For example, did you know that in certain areas on certain maps, invisible spies still make footstep noises? If you adjust your audio settings in the right way, you can make these footsteps much more noticeable and cheese your way into some pretty undeserved kills. Or alternatively, just up the decloak audio to make sure the spy never sneaks up on you again. Number 8. Most people know that the spy's dead ringer has the hidden downside of not being recharged by ammo packs or dispensers, But what a lot of people don't know about this is that it doesn't mean the dead ringer can't be recharged. Shots from the l'étranger will still add to the meter, and it's the same thing with the big earner's backstab bonus. It's a little dishonorable, but a really good strategy is to sneak behind enemy lines with the dead ringer, then secure a kill with either of the two weapons, and then easily escape with your now fully charged dead ringer. Number 9. Speaking of the spy, here's a strategy that is way too uncommon for how strong and fun it is. This is my personal favorite way to play the class, and it surprises me all the time how few people know about it. With a regular invisibility watch and the cloak drain reduction from the l'étranger, you can run from ammo pack to ammo pack and stay fully invisible forever. It's also possible to do this without the l'étranger, but only in certain areas where ammo packs are closer together, and it limits your freedom to explore outside that area. By doing it with the l'étranger, you can stay invisible for as long as you like until you find the perfect backstab target. This way, you don't even have to worry about your disguise or trying to fool the enemies. You just pop out of invisibility, secure the pick, go back invisible. Number 10. Here's a way to accomplish basically nothing, but it's pretty funny, so I'm going to mention it anyways. On a couple specific maps, it's actually possible to burn enemies through the spawn doors as pyro before the game even starts. Yeah, this is pretty much useless most of the time, since anyone with more than a snail's reaction time will just retreat before taking much damage, but occasionally it's possible to secure some hilarious kills this way. Number 11. Everybody always talks about how the spy can use tricky movement to get trick stabs on their enemies, but one thing that doesn't get talked about enough is how to use that movement to sneak behind the enemy's lines. Sometimes it can be difficult to break through the enemy team's defenses, so try a couple of these strategies. First, think critically about what routes your enemies tend to take and what parts of the map are often ignored. Pick strategic routes, and with good timing you can almost guarantee safety while traveling behind enemy lines. Secondly, if someone does happen to catch you, here's a few things that are good to know. While you're cloaked, you shed all your debuffs twice as fast, which means things like fire particles and Girardi are going to end quicker. This removes your enemy's only way of tracking you, so it's pretty useful to know. And if you're up against anything that shoots explosives, you can go invisible and surf the explosion to safety. This can be pretty difficult to pull off well, but when it works, your enemies have no chance of tracking you down. Number 12, last tip of the video. Just have fun. A lot of the time, playing TF2 is stressful because there's always a lot of pressure to focus on the objective and win the game, but you don't always have to play to win. Especially in TF2, there's a lot of room to mess around with different weapon combinations and unique strategies while still being really helpful to your team. That's what makes it such a good game. There's almost infinite ways to play. You'll never know if you find a certain playstyle fun until you try it, so why not experiment a little bit? This isn't me saying obviously to not help your team and just mess around, but instead just try experimenting and finding how you like to play the game. Because no amount of tips and tricks is going to make the game fun. What's going to make the game fun is finding your own way of doing things. Get out there and have fun. And there you have it. That's been 12 Team Fortress 2 tricks that are guaranteed to help you play like the pros. As always, if you have any tips and tricks of your own, feel free to leave a comment and they might be included in the next video. 3 of the facts in today's video were actually stuff that I had no idea about before someone in the comments let me know. Anyways, I'm also always looking for feedback, so if you disagree with one of the tips mentioned in the video, let me know. And consider subscribing if you haven't already, and goodbye.